me how to record vocals using GarageBand. I'm actually not very experienced in GarageBand because I've only started using it since quarantine. But so far I have figured out the very basics, which is recording vocal tracks over a backing track. And maybe do a little bit of editing on that, but no effects. We don't do effects here. So now I'm sharing my screen so I can show you guys what is my process of recording over a backing track. This is how GarageBand looks like when you open it up. And now I go into my files and drag my backing track in here. Make sure it's lined up to the front. I usually like to listen to the beginning, middle, and the end just to make sure it's all there. And then what we do is we add a new track. So we go to this little plus, make sure that your input is the one that you want. So here are the settings for the audio devices. In output device, I can choose whether I want to hear the sound from my headphones or my computer. In this case, I choose to hear from my headphones because if I were listening to them on my computer, then it might disturb the recording itself. Always wear headphones when you're recording sound. Now for input device, I choose to use the microphone that is plugged into my computer. Otherwise, you can choose to use either your headphones or your computer. Whether or not you want to use your headphones or computer, I would highly suggest you do a little bit of a test. So try to record a chunk with your headphones and then try to record a chunk with your computer. And then you can see which recording quality is better. Now, whenever you're checking the quality, it's better to wear headphones while checking it because sound always comes out better in headphones than it does on a computer speaker. And I create a new track. I also like to label the track, so here you can see it's an accompaniment, and then here I'm gonna say it's vocals. Here's a metronome button that most of the time is on by default, so I like to turn it off because the metronome not necessarily is going to fit the beat of my piano track. And the count-in button, I like to keep it on because it counts me in before I need to start recording. So for example, the song that I'm recording right now, it goes right into the song. There is no beginning bars or whatever, you just go straight into it. So I like being counted down to get myself ready. Now that you're all ready, or maybe this is your testing run, we can go ahead and push the record button. So now that we're finished, we can press the record button again and it will stop the recording. Here we have the whole song. And what we can do is we can go and review it. So put the little playhead, which is this line, anywhere you want and you can review it by pressing spacebar. I want to redo this very last bit. I can just go straight into it and I can hit record. And what's gonna happen is that GarageBand is going to count me in and it's also gonna play the music counting into it. So I can get myself ready to record. Alright, and here we have this whole chunk got recorded over it. Another thing that I do is when I'm not so sure which take I want, I would actually record it in another track. And when I record it in another track, because I only want to hear the piano, I don't want to hear my previous attempt, I can mute this track. So right here, there's a mute button. I can mute it. So when I record this one, it's like I'm recording all over again. So this way, you can go and compare the two tracks very easily because they're on top of each other. And while playing, you can even go and switch, like mute this one, mute that one. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds good. Or maybe you could even use the first attempt's first half and then the second attempt's second half, for example. Now, another thing that we can do is we can shift around some of the pieces. For example, if you come in too early for something, or you're recording a dialogue in the middle of the music and you feel like it should come in earlier or a little bit later, well, you can do that too. So I feel like those two chunks of text are a little bit early. So what I'm going to do, this is super simple. I'm sure there's a lot more ways to do this, but this is what I do. You can go into right click and then split at playhead, or just remember the shortcut Command T if you're a Mac user. So I use Command T on both sides over here. This little thing at the top is for moving the place where you cut. This thing at the bottom is sort of for cropping your little audio chunk. If I want to move it backwards, I should crop it from the back and move it slightly backwards. And then I can replay it. I think we could still move it a little bit more. Alright, so I think this is much better. So this is how we move the little clips around. So the last thing that I do before exporting the clip is to make sure that the piano and the vocals are appropriately mixed. Where you can adjust that is right over here at the volume slider. Something that you have to pay attention to is that sometimes it might be the volume in your headphones that is maybe too low or too high. So what really helps us, aside from listening to it, is looking at the color bar down here. When you're playing back your vocals or your piano and you see the color bar go into like the red or like the yellowish red territory, that's when you know that your sound is too loud and that you have to tone it down a little bit, because it's gonna start disrupting the sound quality. Before you export the song, make sure you go through the whole thing and that it isn't overwhelmingly loud in any of the places. So now that I've gone through the steps of listening over and over again and making sure everything is fine, I decide to export it. We go into Share and go to Export Song to Disk. And then you choose an appropriate location and an appropriate name for your work. MP3 is a really good format for any kind of vocal recording because it's basically accepted everywhere. Most softwares and most players are able to play MP3, so it's a good format to hand something in with. And there you go, that's how we edit our audio in GarageBand. Bye bye!